Michelle Graves, your host on today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm glad to have you here. Now, at The Power of Money, we are interested in three things happening. First, we want you to get the necessary education so that you and your family can make the decisions that will impact positively on you in your financial life. The second thing is that you be empowered to prosper. I only want the best for you. And you can only get that if you have education and then the drive to make it happen. And the third thing that is so important to me is that you recognize that life is more than a journey and that you be energized so that you can begin to participate in the truly joyous experience of living. So, here's to empowerment, here's to education, and here's to energy. I'm Michelle Graves, your host, Power of Money, and here we go. And here we go, as I say to my audience over the years, thank you for being a part of my world for the next hour as we discuss issues that can change your life if you say so. Change is about making a personal decision to turn your way of thinking and begin to move in a direction that works positively for you. Today is no exception. I've got a tremendous guest in the studio for the next hour. He's a friend of mine. I worked under him. Yeah, can you believe that, Michelle Graves? That's funny. But anyway, his specialty is in working with seniors, and he is my go-to person for Medicare. That's right, it's here, Medicare 2020. And for the next hour, we're going to be talking about aging, the aging of the population in America, including baby boomers such as myself. We're going to be talking about Medicare and things you need to know about the 2020 plan and how you can begin to look critically at what you have and what you need. So without a whole lot of ado, I'm just going to say that our guest today is Curtis Weaver, and he has had a successful practice in Atlanta, Georgia for well over 20 years. And he is, again, my go-to person for Southern Ohio in the work that I'm doing right now for Medicare. So without a whole lot of accolades, he stands on his own merits as a successful black man. I'm going to introduce him to you, and we're going to talk about these subjects. How are you, Mr. Weaver?
I'm doing good, Ms. Graves. How are you today?
I'm awesome.
Great.
I'm awesome.
Great.
I really am. Where do we want to begin with the conversation about Medicare 2020, our aging population, and some of the things you've encountered in working with your clients on Medicare for the next hour?
Okay. Well, I'll be free and open to talk to you about whatever you'd like to talk about as it relates to Medicare. One of the things that I find when this time of year comes, open enrollment, which goes from October 15th to December 7th, is the point that a lot of people get kind of nervous as it relates to making choices or making changes in their Medicare plans.
Okay, why would they get nervous?
Well, for one, it's intimidating. It's a lot of information coming at one time. And for those who are Medicare eligible, they have a short window to make a decision, but it's a lot of information that they have to go through and sort through.
Well, I know for myself it was intimidating, and I consider myself pretty smart, but I knew I was going to have to change carriers.
Yes.
And I was a little bit uncomfortable about the unknown.
Yes, and,
Okay.
and that's pretty typical. A lot of times when you start talking about types of plans, Medicare Supplement, Medicare Advantage, Part A, Part B, a lot of the verbiage in terms of deductibles and copays and acronyms of MOOPs and troops and things of that nature. Individuals don't really understand what all that simply means. So my whole purpose is to help individuals kind of understand and demystify a lot of the fear that they have in making choices in their plan. Even though you make a choice in picking a Medicare plan annually, if you don't want to make a choice or make a change, you don't have to do anything. It'll stay the same. But you may be missing out if you don't take advantage and look at it kind of with a critical eye, simply because that's money that could be going back into your income for your home. So those are the type of strategies that I help seniors navigate through.
So let me ask you, because frankly, I don't know, is it just me, viewers? I'm inundated with everything right now. Mailers, solicitations from all of the major insurance carriers that are doing Medicare, and then the incessant advertising on television about all these changes, and you need to come to us, and you need to come to us, and I know I'm not the only person feeling a sense of dread, because you don't know what is the best choice for you.
Right. You really don't. But I think when you look at what we have as a system here as it relates to health care, that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But when you look at open enrollment for individuals who are not maybe self-employed, or individuals who have single families or what have you, those individuals have to make a choice on their individual care too. Medicare is also happening in terms of open enrollment during that October through December timeframe, and then on many individuals' work jobs or work sites, they have to make their choices for their families or the plans for next year. So it's a lot of information going on as it relates to health care in terms of enrollment. So it's not just Medicare members. People in the workplace are feeling the crunch because they have to make a decision on their families. People in the individual markets have to make a choice simply because the cost of health care has gone up for them. So we're starting to talk about being very, very clear and very concise about our choices and decisions.
So where do we begin, since our focus of this show is going to be on Medicare and 2020, which is just around the corner, by the way.
Yes.
It's fast approaching. Where does a person begin in the process?
Well, you have to look at what's available. For Medicare members, there are basically three ways in which you can receive your Medicare benefits. You can have the original traditional way of having just original Medicare, which consists of Part A for hospitalization and Part B for medical. Medicare also requires that we get a drug plan, so that's your number one way. The second way in which you could receive Medicare is actually have a supplemental. The supplemental will basically have your Part A benefits for hospitalization, your Part B for medical. The supplement would supplement what Medicare doesn't pay. And in addition, we also have to get a drug plan. So there's three different cards that we're actually carrying when we have to go see our doctor or get our medications and what have you.
That's under a supplement?
That's under a supplement.
So let me summarize for our viewers. Because this is pushed heavily, these supplements are pushed through AARP and others, but that involves the Part A.
Yes.
The Part B.
Yes.
That's taken out of your Social Security check.
Correct.
Automatically. And now you have a supplement.
Yes.
Which picks up where Medicare stops.
Correct.
And you have a D.
Yes.
For your prescriptions.
Yes.
The original Medicare, there's no cost for that, correct?
Well,
or it depends?
Well, your Part B for original Medicare, we will always have that premium.
Always?
Always.
Always, and it starts at $135,
well,
$50 or something like that?
It's really income driven based on the annual gross income that you make.
Okay.
So whatever your income was, and it's all kind of scaled, on average, that is the amount, $130, $140.
Or higher.
Yes.
And then your supplement.
Yes.
Which picks up where Medicare stops, because Medicare doesn't pay 100%.
Right. So your portion would be 20%, your Medicare would be
80%. Okay.
And the thing about
That's important. People, we still have to pay.
yes,
Okay, under the original
yes, that never
Medicare.
goes away.
That never goes away.
No, as
The
long as
20%, it's got to be paid.
the 20% has to be paid, but you have those two options, but you also have a third option that we need to talk about.
Okay.
Because as a third option, you simply have relationships now with private insurance carriers. So this is
Such
called
as?
Part C.
Okay, Part C.
Okay.
And that's private insurance carriers. And who are they? I mean, give me some names here.
Well, basically all of our carriers that we would see would be the Aetna, Anthem, Humana, United, Cigna,
Medical,
and the list goes on. There are hundreds of companies that offer these various plans. But what happens is this is one of your third options under Medicare.
Okay, so this is a third option.
Yes, this is an option that we really don't talk about much and don't really understand. The Part C basically gives us an all-inclusive plan, meaning that we have Part A, hospitalization.
Okay.
Part B for your medical.
Okay.
Okay. You also have the drug plan, Part D, which is your prescription drugs.
That's in this.
It's all-inclusive.
Okay.
C actually pulls everything together and creates one unified plan. So your medical and your prescription drugs and all your additional benefits actually are in this one plan. And then with that, you simply have a schedule of benefits. So when you start talking about hospitalization, when you start talking about doctor's visits and urgent care and dialysis and skilled nursing and things of that nature that are in your typical healthcare plan, this plan gives you that Medicare base in addition to the dental and the vision and hearing and benefits that you need. So,
now that's new because that's, I mean, you keep hearing it on television.
Yes.
With these ads. Is that with all of them that are the Schedule C?
Yeah, under C is simply Medicare Advantage.
Okay, that's Medicare Advantage.
Yes, so Medicare Advantage is totally different from a supplement. Medicare Advantage is not a supplement, and a supplement is not Medicare Advantage.
Got it.
They work totally different.
Can you go into that? What does that look like?
Well, with a supplement, if you look at how much you would actually pay in the monthly premium, annualized, on average, I think we can look at a supplement, let's say, for example, costing about $170.
A month?
A month for the supplement.
For the supplement.
Correct. Which
covers the 20% that's on you.
Well, it depends, because in the supplement world, and understand, all of these have scaled measures in which you can actually receive your benefits. So in some benefits, you would have like, how can I explain it? You have A through J in terms of your offerings. In many cases,
that's too many offerings.
It's a lot.
That's
it's a lot of community.
A through J? What?
Yeah, and not to get too technical, but in most cases, let's say, for example, we pick the F plan, which is what most folks pick, because when they go to the doctor, they don't want to really worry about co-pays or things of that nature. But with that, you pay on an annual basis, whatever your monthly premium times 12, and then you also add on an additional drug plan.
A drug plan in addition to this premium.
Right.
You're paying for this supplement.
Yes. So you may be spending about $200 just going in, and you haven't even gone to the doctor yet. So for a lot of folks,
a month.
Per month.
How much is that a year?
That's
$2,500.
$2,500 on average, but some people are paying more. Some people, depending on what you get.
Okay. All righty, continue.
But the reason why you have to look at that, because when you start looking at frequency, how often are you going?
Right.
That starts to kind of really determine, is it worth me spending $2,400, $2,500 a year, and I only go to see my doctor,
for
periodically,
physical
and exams when I get a cold or when I break my leg or what have you. So you have to understand, how do I use my insurance? When you look at comparatively Medicare Advantage Medicare Advantage gives you the full scope of all of your health care. Part A, Part B, and your Part D is all inclusive. And in many cases, you can have a plan with zero premium.
Okay, when you say zero premium, you're not talking about the Part B.
No, we always have to pay the Part B.
Always.
Yes.
Did you all get that? That's really important information. You're going to pay, with few exceptions, Part B. It's coming out of your check.
Yeah. And in some cases, we have individuals that are dual eligible, meaning that they have Medicare and Medicaid, and they may get additional help from the state to help them because of their income. So when you look at traditional, the ways in which we receive our Medicare, on average, not regarding the folks that are on Medicare and Medicaid, the individuals may be paying more than they need to, and that's the point that I'm trying to make, that you can actually get more for less without having to spend all of your income when you need it most.
Well, it would seem to me, based on the data that I have read about it, is that seniors do not have it going on.
Right.
That we are dealing, in many cases, with limited financial resources.
Right.
At a very vulnerable time in our lives. We're getting older. And while the body is not a perfect instrument, the reality that it could break down and you don't have adequacy of coverage is a fearful thing.
It is, and a lot of people walk in fear as it relates to their health care simply because they don't want to mess it up and they don't want to spend too much, and so they don't go. And that becomes a problem simply because you got the best insurance on the planet to go wherever you want to go in many cases, to have the access, but being fearful of not knowing how my insurance works. I'm not using it, it's just not like not having it. You don't have the access and availability. So it's important for us to understand, to empower ourselves and to learn this information about this and not be fearful of talking about our situation simply because you're not only helping yourself, you're helping other people. When you ask those questions, what if? I think a lot of times we take into account or feel that how we look and how we're presented for not knowing about these health plans or any of our financial matters, that it makes us look less than. In this situation, you don't really want to play around with how things look on the outside, simply because it's a personal thing that it affects you totally and it affects your family. Because when you start talking about caregiving, when you start talking about your quality of life, all these things matter as we get older.
Well, I definitely know in my particular situation, and I know that I don't speak for everybody, but I speak for a lot, your health is more important than your money.
Well, if I don't have health, I can't make money unless I have another passive way. But in most cases, the body was made to work. So as long as we live and as long as we accumulate and have, we will have to pay for these of being here. As we get older, things change in terms of when we were younger, we bought houses and cars and things of that nature. Now, as you get older, you have accumulated all of those things. Now it's time to kind of live a little different. Now our health is now the biggest maintainer. I mean, we have more maintenance in just maintaining our health, and that's where a lot of our money is going to be going in the future. Period.
Okay.
So when you start to talk about retirement, when you start talking about how much money does it take for me to live, and how much money is it going to take for me to live in the future, those are things individuals need to be talking about. And at what rate is the cost of living? I want to live and I want to stay where my money does the greater good for me, where it lasts the longest. So our spending changes as we get older, and our incomes become more static in that they're fixed.
Okay.
And we have to be mindful of what do we do first in terms of order. Are we paying taxes? We're dealing with our qualified money. We become just like kindergarten again when we step out of the workplace.
It is a true thing.
Yep.
It is definitely It's an eye-opener. Viewers, just in case you are not there yet, you'll be there, and you're going to find yourself trying to piece this story together for your own lives. All of us are different. All of us have lived our lives historically differently, and it's really important. I'm telling you, as a woman that's walking through it right now, that you cannot possibly be prepared adequately for your retirement years if you do not take certain steps now before you're retired to get there. Medicare is a real beginning. It's a real tester so that you can become acclimated to looking at situations that you will find yourself involved in. Let me just give you a case in point, and then I'm going to flip it back over to Mr. Weaver. I was under a plan. Everybody said, I don't want to change plans. I don't want to, no. Let me tell you something. I was under a plan. I'm not going to even name their name, but I did switch out 2 days ago. I wound up, it's an HMO. An HMO is a health maintenance plan. You're familiar with them. If not, they're all over the place. But you have a primary care physician, PCP, remember that term. And that physician is the only person that you can get to go to a specialist. If you have a situation, like in my case, I wanted my eyes examined. Okay, no problem. Doctor sent me to the specialist. Got to the specialist. Specialist wanted to do some additional testing. And I got the bill for the additional testing, despite the fact that my doctor has sent me to the specialist. I called the carrier. Why are you sending me this extremely high bill for a service that my doctor referred? Check their records. No, your doctor didn't refer you for that particular examination. Therefore, we're not going to pay. And the doctor's position was, well, you're going to have to pay. Well, you know what? I said, fine, I'm going to ride this out, and then I'm dumping you all because I don't want to deal with a carrier that deals with this. Now, what did you recommend when I told you that?
Well, you have to first of all drill down and relax.
I can't. It's my money.
Because all these plans are built for efficiency.
Right.
And understand they do what they do in terms of availability of doctors, but at the same time you do have problems.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's no
Sure,
silver
that just
bullet.
summed up.
Okay.
Okay.
When you look at anytime you have an issue like that, because you have to direct it back to the plan. That's what Medicare pays these companies to do for you. So when you pick one of these plans, your carrier is really on the hook to actually help and correct any issue that you may have, whether it be pay issues, whether it be timely being able to see you readily or when you can within a timely manner. All these things are valid complaints. All these things are valid concerns that you need to voice to your plan, because your plan actually is hired to do that, to correct the wrong that you don't have to go through.
But they didn't.
Well, I know.
And
but
I'm gone. I took my money, folks, and I left.
Yes. So, yes, you do have that flexibility.
But I was scared.
Yes.
I was scared.
Yes.
I was scared.
Yeah. But you do have that flexibility to leave if you want to. But you don't have to necessarily take that measure. But at the same time, everybody has flexibility. HMOs, health maintenance organizations, they're a little bit more controlled in terms of where you can go, networks. If you go out of network, you may be on the hook for the income or the money for that. However, when you start looking at the other option, PPO, Preferred Provider Organization, it has out-of-network benefits.
And
so,
wait a minute, let's talk about terminology. So in-network means they have their own proprietary group of doctors
yes,
and specialists.
yes,
HMO, in-network.
yes.
And if you go out of their network,
Yes.
you're going to wind up paying that bill.
You may have to pay that bill.
I did.
Okay.
Okay, now with a out-of-network, if I had just gone out-of-network, I just pay.
In a PPO, you have a different kind of
Okay,
pay
because
plan.
that's what you recommended for me.
Yes. PPO gives you the flexibility to travel, see network, out of network doctors. and give you that peace of mind and not having to worry. With the difference, one has you just pay a little bit higher copay.
Okay.
So instead of maybe seeing a specialist for $35, you now maybe have a $45 specialist because he's out of network. And then there are other benefits in there too. So it really depends on how you use your insurance as it relates to the Medicare. Now, with Medicare plans, the way that they're designed is not all bad. HMO is not the devil. It's just
Yes,
one
it is.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. That was my personal experience. Okay.
Okay. HMOs aren't the devil, but at the same time, they give us what we need, meaning that with Medicare, because you're in a protected class, the providers are, the companies are trying to find all of the networks that are in the area.
Okay.
Because we're dealing with a senior population. They're not really trying to price gouge you simply because there are regulations
Right, I get
in
that.
place for seniors.
Right.
So it's a little bit more gentler feel and a gentler touch, but nobody knows until you tell them that you're having a problem. So anybody that's having a problem with your plan, go back to your plan and explain to them the situation. And if you're not getting the resolve that you need, there is a complaint area that you can actually call within your plan to kind of get you resolved, as well as billing and doctors and things of that nature. So start there.
And in all fairness, after making 2 calls to try to get this resolved, being put on hold, being transferred, my patience index started declining. And I just said, I'm paying this bill.
Yes.
And forget you. And I paid the bill and I said, I'm going to make a change.
Yes.
I like my doctors. I liked them, but I did not like the carrier.
Right.
So I made a change.
Sure.
I just, and it was a little.
Yeah. And you have the flexibility to do that with this plan, these plans during this time.
During
because
this
we're
time.
in annual enrollment. And you
Okay.
can make as many plans choices as you want up to the deadline.
So you can actually enroll in one of those Part Cs, and if you don't like it after you've enrolled, you still have time to switch
Right.
to something else
Right.
by December 7th?
Yes, but to kind of keep you from having to go through a lot of that, I help individuals make the choices that stick so that they're not flip-flopping in and out of plans, and they don't have a lot of individuals coming in and out of their home doing presentations. We're kind of like a one-stop shop. We kind of show you what your offerings are and give you based on your needs and what your situation is.
So what is the biggest mistake people make? Because nobody likes to make mistakes.
Asking the right questions. And the situation is most people don't know what questions to ask because Medicare and understanding healthcare is so broad. We understand that we start talking about deductibles. You know, what does that mean?
What does it mean?
Well, simply if you see the term deductible, that means simply that's going to be your first amount of money that you would pay before your plan kicks in.
Okay. So that's on you.
That's on you.
Okay, so if they have, like for the hospital part, I'm just going back from what I'm reading, in the Part A,
Yes.
there is a deductible
Yes.
for the hospital. Okay, and that's on you.
Now, in some cases, you have to look at each and every plan.
My God, here we go.
Because
Oh,
each
my.
year they change.
Each year they change. So you got to look at each plan
Yes,
to see what the deductible is on each plan. Is that correct?
if there is one.
If there is one.
Yeah, in some cases there may or there may not be, and it really depends on the service area where your plans are.
So is the Part C, is there a deductible?
It depends on the plan.
It depends on the plan.
Yeah, in some cases, like I say, you have HMO, you have HMO POS, you have PPO, you have private fee-for-service. So all of these plans have different values. You have to go through the summary and the summary of benefits through all of these plans.
For each plan, rule number 1
Yes,
is there are a lot of plans.
yes,
So you better have a lot of time.
yes. 65 to be a accountant, I think, in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Yes.
65 plans in Southern Ohio. That's a lot of time.
Yes,
And each plan has its own characteristics.
right.
That's just the plans, the
Yes.
Part Cs.
Yes.
We still haven't dealt with the supplements, which are part of the original.
Now,
You can't have a supplement and have a Part C.
yes, you can have a supplement. No, you can't not have a Part C and a supplement.
Right, you can't have them both.
Medicare won't allow you to do both. You got to pick one or the other.
Okay.
Yes.
So I say, this is too much work. I'm going to go and do a supplement.
Okay.
I like to travel. I like to not be worried about medical care if I'm in different cities or vacationing or whatever my lifestyle decisions are. Seniors are busy today.
They are.
They go to Florida, they go to California, they go to Denver. So we don't want to be worried about doctors.
Right.
So will the supplement cover that?
Supplement will cover that, but it really depends on which plan that you get in the supplement form.
Okay, so you've got to look into the supplement form
Yes.
before doing that.
Right. In many cases, what that simply means is, let's say, for example, everyone, in most cases, a lot of folks and individuals pick the F plan.
Okay,
And the F plan covers pretty much everything.
okay,
And because that covers everything, let's say you're out in Vegas.
Right.
And you get sick and you need to use
Right.
your insurance. Well, with the F plan, when you would actually go to your doctor. and
the one out there.
out there. You
Okay.
present both cards, your Medicare card and your F supplement card.
Okay,
And what happens is the doctors will bill Medicare. Medicare will pay, and any of the excess, the supplements will pay.
okay,
Okay.
okay,
Now, the way that Medicare Advantage works is that if you were there, you would have the urgent care, outpatient, and all those benefits available. It would be just deemed as an out-of-network situation unless you had a PPO. A PPO, in some cases, some companies have huge networks. So wherever you go is
you
treated.
can get their doctors.
You can get their doctors that are in the network from that particular company. So that gives you peace of mind in knowing I don't have to worry about any gotchas or maximum out of pocket. So all of this is for efficiency when you talk about Part C. Meaning
Okay.
you pay as you need to go, and it allows you the freedom to do what you want to do.
Now, what about on the area of specialty drugs? Not that I do anything, because I really don't even do a doctor other than physical
Yes.
and maintenance, but I don't get into, I'm a healthy female. I like to stay that way, but
Good.
life is funny. So what happens with people that do have conditions that
Well-
require more intense medication?
When you start talking about prescription drug plans, this opens up a whole nother conversation. With prescription drug plans, they are embedded into Medicare Advantage. You can have some plans with prescription drugs and some without. Now, the plans that we would say that would have prescription drug plans, this gives you your lay of pharmacies that you can go to, CVS, Walgreens, Sam's, Publix, Kroger's, wherever you go. This gives you the flexibility to do and make it work for you from that perspective. And then with these medications, they're all on a tier system. So you have your generic, your preferred generic, your specialty, and non-preferred. And those medications are really based on that. That's how we range price.
Okay.
So for your generics, they may not even have a copay. Or for your preferred generics, there may be, a $10 copay.
Okay.
So it's very minimal for what you have. 30-day supplies are there, 90-day supplies are there, mail orders there. So really how you use your plan. But the medications are there, and when you start talking about usage, some folks are taking more than others.
Okay,
So like you in your situation, you may not take a lot of medications, but you still have to, by law, have a medication
I still
drug
have to
plan.
have a drug plan.
Right. And Medicare says if you want us to take care of your medications, you have to get one, and you have to get one when we tell you to. So that's how that works.
But you know what, and not to be controversial, but this is a mandated health plan for people 65 and over, correct?
It is. It's a government insurance, and basically from the years that you've worked, you've earned it. So,
Okay.
So Part A,
Because
you've
they take
earned.
it out of your check.
Yeah, they do, and it's just part of being the system. If you want to have that kind of added protection, you have to pay for it. However, you have a lot of folks out here that don't have Part A and haven't, thought about
Hospitalization?
hospitalization, you know.
You think that many seniors are out here without that?
Well, I don't think they do it by choice.
What happens?
Well, I think a lot of times it depends. I'll just say that.
It depends.
It depends on the person's situation. Some people know and some people don't.
So it is completely possible that you've worked all your life and you don't have coverage?
Well, you may not have adequate coverage, or you may.
Okay, what are the rules on that?
But typically, when you turn 65, typically you've worked enough quarters to actually have Part A, and then the
How
Part
many
B.
is it?
40 hours.
40?
So yes.
Okay.
So with that, you have enough hours to give you what you need in terms of your Part A benefits. You've earned that from the years that you worked. The Part B is the ongoing premium that we pay. That's based on our annual gross income that we make.
And
so,
if a spouse has been at home and her husband's worked and he's met the Part A, can she ride up under him?
well, there are some benefits, and this is where it gets kind of squirrely. But the spouse can actually be added in under that the benefits.
Okay, for her husband.
For her husband, if just based on the number of years. But every situation is different. So you have to ask the questions and give the information to the folks.
Well, I'm gonna say this because I know the thrust is everything's online, internet.
Yes.
And a lot of seniors are not that skilled at internet.
Right.
They're not.
Yes.
And for myself, I'm on internet daily, but still, there are aspects of internet that are intimidating.
Yeah, they are.
And so, what happens in that situation?
Well, this is where you have to use some young minds and bring some people in the family into your decision making.
Okay.
Because younger folks simply have the understanding of how things work, especially healthcare, and they can kind of.
They're smart.
Yep.
They're
so
smart.
Let the young folks help us with the technology, and I think that's what we have to talk some more and do together, because the responsibility is going to be on them to take care of us, and they have to know where to go and what to do, and we have to have the conversation with our parents. Otherwise, a lot of things goes assumed. So, yeah.
So on this generational issue where you're talking about young people being tech savvy and older people perhaps not having the same skill sets for something that's so important as healthcare decisions, what role do you play?
Well, my role is to kind of help individuals understand what they're looking at and trying to make it work for their benefit. And that's a whole nother kind of approach than maybe the traditional way. Because seniors don't gravitate to a lot of technology, not saying that a lot of seniors aren't, because they're still coming out of the workplace and they're still kind of in that technology mode. But that's a whole generation that's coming, but we have still a whole generation that's still here now that didn't go through that tech boom that really needs kind of hand holding. We have to kind of put it into a literacy program for them to understand two things: technology and their finances.
Okay.
So when you start talking about financial literacy and understanding those components that are important to us as we get older, if we don't do that, we fall victim to a lot of things being left undone, and it becomes a tax problem for our kids. It becomes, things aren't passed on traditionally to the family. So we have to pay attention and ask for help as we get older, and not be prideful simply because we don't know. And because we don't know, we need help, and that's where we get that from.
Well, I tell you, what I see emerging, particularly with the baby boomers, which I'm a part of, is that we are going into a time in history where information is paramount, but information changes. And you're talking about, in your particular area of expertise, health, which we've not paid a lot of attention to heretofore until you get older. Like when I say older, like in your 80s, you start thinking about, in the old days, health. I'm not talking about today.
Right.
In the old days, people were not, in my opinion, were not as sickly as they seem to be today, and also they were a lot more busy, work
Yes.
than today. And so we now have a scenario where I'm just concerned that my generation is going to overwhelm this system of healthcare. Seriously,
Right.
if we don't,
Right.
you better get on that treadmill.
Yeah. Well, and you're so right. I think a lot of things have changed in how we do things. You know, how food is prepared, how we eat, how we go out, how we spend our money. A lot of those things have changed, and it's affected our quality of life. Meaning that now younger people are having older people
Yes.
health conditions, and we've never seen, and people are living longer. But you have to subscribe to the benefit of what works for you to kind of help you. You have to have a coach to kind of take you through and have a partner. But I think a lot of times, because of just not a level of support, the ones kind of encourage you to eat right, and it's very easy to grab bad food. And because of that, it sets everything off kilter, meaning that we got bad food, we're eating bad food, which means we're putting it into our bodies, which is causing our bodies to break down, which means we have to go now to the doctor, and now it's costing us money because we eating bad food.
I mean, that's the paradox, because you got a health plan, but it was never designed for 100% utilization by everybody at the same time. I do not see how this works.
Well, it works for those that use it and for those that don't, because a lot of times those that are not using it are paying for those that are using it.
Well, that's what young people are saying about us, which is, why are we subsidizing you?
Yeah.
That's what they're saying about Social Security. Why we're paying into a system that we're never going to get.
Well, that was the whole reason for remodernizing Medicare. So
Right.
when we start talking about the remodernization of Medicare, which brought about the Medicare Advantage, as well as it brought about the
Which
drug-
incidentally, I do like.
Yes.
I like the concept, and I believe, not to interrupt you, but I believe that the federal government's going to continue to push that Part C.
Yes.
I believe that.
Well, that was the whole purpose, because they saw back then if they didn't make a change or choice, we would have bankrupted our whole Medicare
system, yeah.
simply because we don't have one person or 6 people working for one person anymore. We got like 1.5 person working for one person. So dollar for dollar, we're not matching up. But at the same time, there's a lot of money in tax dollars that a lot of people are spending in premiums that
They don't have to.
companies are getting. And when you start to put the burden on insurance companies rather than the government, things change. You know, you can get additional benefits. You can get add-ons and things like dental and vision and hearing and tests and things of that nature, simply because now you have a different kind of well to pull from. You're pulling from a well of insurance instead of pulling from a well of government. So it offsets.
So that's private sector versus government.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
So the Part C is really a private sector
Yes.
initiative, as opposed to the original Medicare with the supplement and the prescription, which is what our older generation had. They didn't have the benefit of the advantage.
Right. And it's all insurance. I mean, don't get me wrong, supplements are
Yeah, they
regulated
are,
by the
yeah,
insurance
okay.
commission. And basically with that, they have to start rated based on, you know, availability, doctor availability. A lot of things are factored in terms of their rates, you know, how
Right.
they're rated, customer service, efficiencies and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, we want to have insurance when we need it.
Right.
And we don't
And
have
I don't
to.
want to pay for something I'm not going to use.
Yeah. Well, the question is, when would you like to use it?
Well, I think for myself, my major concern is hospitalization.
Yep. And that's what most people would probably use it for, but you never know when you're going to get sick.
You don't.
So, you know, we pay into a pool with the hopes that at some point in time, no, we don't want to get sick, but the possibility is high that we may get sick at some point in our life. So at that time, that's when I needed most. And I understand, you know, you have to pay to play, but
You
at the
do.
same time, you have to put something in to get something out.
Well, I do know this. When you look at what is epidemic in this country among older people, what people are dying from today, cancer, heart issues
Right.
would have to be the two things most. And with cancer, that is a long-term condition for treatment, including hospitalization and specialty care. And those are costs that you have to foot in many cases, correct?
Well, it depends on what type of health plan you have.
Oh my gosh, back to the type of health plan.
When you start talking about people who just have original Medicare and a drug plan,
Yeah,
like I said, that 20% we have to remember is uncapped, meaning that
what does that mean?
Let's say, for example, you had a $50,000 bill come from your stay at the hospital for your surgery.
Okay,
Well, of that $50,000, or we'll just make it round.
okay,
Okay, $10,000 at 20%. What is that? $200 or so. Okay. Well, when you look at the percentages of the people that are going in and having hospital stay, skilled nursing care,
for
the
rehab,
rehab,
yeah,
all this 20% starts to add up. And there is no cap on it, meaning that worst case scenario, it could run into the millions if you did not have a plan. Are we willing to write a check for $1 million
No.
simply
Can
because?
bankrupt you.
Okay, so when you start talking about the number of folks that are filing bankruptcy and filing all these claims because they can't afford their medical bills, that's just totally, they didn't have to go through that had they picked the right plan.
That's what I think is important. And the other thing is, and viewers, listen to me on this because this is important. Medicare does not cover long-term care.
No, it doesn't.
So if you go from a hospital stay, your rehab blows out, meaning Medicare will cover X number of days for rehabilitation after the hospital,
Right.
after 3 days, and you have to go into a long-term care situation, who carries that?
Pretty much you have to spend down your assets to kind of get into that kind of situation.
So you wind up losing everything.
Yeah, because on average, we're looking at nursing homes, on average, anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000, depending on where you live per month.
Yeah,
And
and
that's a
don't
lot.
have more.
Yeah.
You can have more.
You can have more. So when we start talking about out of pocket and planning, none of us think that we're ever going to die because that's
No,
not
well,
something.
who's dying?
Right.
We'll live forever.
But we all know loved ones, and we all have had loved ones to die and haven't had things prepared for them. You know, we don't really have a conversation and talk about it because nobody wants to let you know that they don't know. And that's
Or they don't have it together.
they don't have it together. And it's okay simply because the way that the world and the way that change comes to us, we have to adjust and have to adapt, and we have to kind of get away from that. I just know that getting smarter about your financials and getting smarter about your health care plan, that saves you money in the long end, because when you need it most, that's when you want it.
Right.
When you need it. So, yeah, long-term care, no, Medicare doesn't pay for.
Okay, that's important because that is a part of their planning as they move forward now. Sadly, and I can speak to this because I am a long-term care certified specialist, but you can't get long-term care when you're sick. That's a little
No,
bit too late.
It is, and a lot of people wait until they get into that situation to try to apply for it. But like I said, at that point, it's too late.
It's really too late. So it's really about trying to get your planning and ducks in a row from where I sit when you're younger
Right,
and not when you're older.
correct.
And if you're older, your primary concern is not depleting your resources.
Right, and that's the name of the game.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so if the game is to not deplete your resources and to look at every option that's available to conserve. I guess you need to know what your medical habits are. If you live a simple lifestyle and eat well and exercise, then perhaps you don't need to have all of the bells and whistles if you're not using it.
Yeah, you want to build it to scale, meaning
Yeah.
that you want to
And
be
that
able
is
to
available. That
yeah.
is possible.
Yeah, you can actually add to, but I'll say for those individuals that are younger, start looking at insurances and those things now, simply because it's a lot less to bear. You know, I think when you start talking about Medicare, let's just go back there.
Okay,
because
time is winding up.
Yeah, with Medicare, being smart about your health care coverage and getting understanding and learning, that helps add value back to you. So, no, there is no silver bullet, but you have to kind of take ownership of your own being. Person.
And we're fortunate really to have people such as yourself, because you guided me, because folks, I was really, really nervous because I don't like things that aren't crisp. And Medicare is a big, big elephant. You eat it a little piece at a time. We're in open enrollment season right now, which is why I have him on as my guest. From October 15th through December the 7th is your time to make those decisions. This is not an optional thing. If you're 65, you have to do Medicare. Now, if you're working for an employer, it's entirely possible that you can continue on under their plan. Depends upon what it costs you. And you have to make those decisions of whether your spouse is under your plan or not, or whether your plan has moving parts, and one of them that cannot move is your health plan. So if that's your situation and you have what Medicare calls credible coverage, meaning your employer offers you better or equal to what Medicare, then you're fine. You're fine. But if that's not you, then you have to get out here like everybody else. And so I would encourage you during this period. What's the number that they can reach you?
I'll have to give you the number. I don't have that number right with me right at this time.
Okay.
But I can get you that number for you.
Okay, then I think I have your number. It's 800-734-3915. Does that sound right?
That sounds good.
800-734-3915. That's Mr. Weaver, Curtis Weaver. And again, I appreciate the time you gave me today.
Thank you.
I'm less confused, but I'm more prepared to just let, experts look at my situation and make the decision for me.
Yeah,
and I'll review it and go for it.
And just know that it can be corrected, so it's...
That's good to know.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
For your time today. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. For those of you tuning in, I hope you listened carefully while we talked about Medicare 2020. America is getting older faster. All you have to do is look around. I went to my 50th class reunion and had a heart attack. I didn't. I'm just being funny. I did not have a real heart attack, okay? But it was eye-opening. It was to see that aging comes fast and you're not prepared for what it looks like. But I encourage you to seek help, seek advice. He's doing seminars, and I encourage you to come and to be a part of it and learn and grow. This is what empowerment is about, learning and growing and making good, sound financial decisions for you and your family. And that is my agenda for everybody that views this telecast, that you take responsibility, or as Oprah Winfrey would say, own it, and do the things that are going to help you to survive in the years ahead. Aging has its own cadence. Believe me, everything changes. And embrace that information that I'm getting older and I got to be prepared, or else I'm going to leave a mess for my kids. I'm going to leave a mess for myself. And that's not an optimal way to live. So concluding today's session of The Power of Money with, of course, your host, Michelle Graves. I appreciate you tuning in, listening in, and as always, as I always close, God bless you in the days ahead, and God bless you today. You take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.